Before mastering diabetes, my A1C was 14.3%, way off the charts. And now it's down around 6%. My fasting blood glucose was around 300, and now it's down around 100. So my weight was one of the biggest issues. In this case, I was actually low in weight, and I was about 140 pounds. And to give you context, I'm 6'2". That's very tiny. Since mastering diabetes, I've gone up to about 155 pounds, and I'm continuing to build on that. Now I have a lot more energy, and I frequently, every time I eat, I'm still, in shape to go out and do exercise. And I don't feel like curling up on the couch ever, right after eating. And that was just a constant for me. I came across Cyrus and Robbie on the Rich Roll podcast, and I said, well, I'll try this. I'll get the book, and I got the book, and I slowly read it. I got through the first few chapters. I said, okay, this science sort of makes sense. Started making some of the recipes, and for 2 months until my doctor said, come back. I was doing this by myself. Basically, I also decided to get a Freestyle Libre at that point. My doctor was like, no, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. I said, no. And then I realized basal insulin was putting me hypoglycemic at night. So I started realizing these things. I was picking up tidbits from the Mastering Diabetes book, but it was all very confusing. In 3 months, around June, I was down to a 6.6 A1C, which, obviously that convinced my doctor we were doing exactly the right thing. So actually I should take more medication, less insulin. And he gave me that. And at this point, I had gotten to the late onset diabetes in the Mastering Diabetes book. And I said to my doctor, I think we should do these tests. And he said, I don't agree, but sure, let's do the test. And my C-peptide came back, and it was about 1, which is pretty low for the book. Not extremely low, but pretty low. It still didn't convince my doctor that, I was type 1. So I said, well, let's do the antibody tests. And I did them, and one of them came back extremely positive. And this is over the course of the next 3 months. I was continuing mastering diabetes. I got my A1C down just with the type 2 medication and mastering diabetes method to 5.9%, but I was losing weight still. And I had basically gotten to the point where I look back now at a picture of myself in the summer, my shirt's off at the beach. I could be a skeleton, really. And people were like, well, maybe you're not doing the right thing on mastering diabetes. Sure, the blood sugar is doing really well, but you look terrible. And they were right, to be honest. Everyone got really concerned. And so I started doing research, and I was like, well, how do you gain weight as a late onset diabetic? Well, I was trying to convince my doctor about this at the same time. Like, I didn't have anyone in my life I could turn to talk about anything, really. I didn't know any diabetics. So I came in about 140 pounds. In 6 weeks, I gained 15 pounds, which at the time had seemed impossible. I generally have found that I have more energy. I basically have been doing a lot more exercise because of the Mastering Diabetes method. And that used to be really hard. Like before I started anything, when my A1C was about 14.3, I wouldn't have energy for anything. Like I'd eat a meal, didn't matter whether it was pizza, pasta, vegetables, I would just be full or feel bloated. And I didn't really feel full, but I felt bloated, and I'd, immediately curl up on the couch and be dozy. Now I have a lot more energy, and I frequently, every time I eat, I'm still, in shape to go out and do exercise. And I don't feel like curling up on the couch ever, right after eating. And that was just a constant for me. Before mastering diabetes, my A1C was 14.3%, way off the charts. And now it's down around 6%. My fasting blood glucose was around 300, and now it's down around 100. So my weight was one of the biggest issues. In this case, I was actually low in weight, and it was about 140 pounds. And to give you context, I'm 6'2". That's very tiny. Since mastering diabetes, I've gone up to about 155 pounds, and I'm continuing to build on that. My number one problem was that I was still losing weight on the mastering diabetes method when I was doing it by myself. But the number one problem, I guess, would be better said as I was losing weight and I was still trying to control my blood sugar. And I was finding it really hard to eat a lot or eat the right things while controlling my blood sugar. You have to do something. I don't think it's an acceptable, as you can probably tell from my history, I don't think it's an acceptable response to sit there and say, oh, well, the doctor's going to cure me with some pills. For me, mastering diabetes worked really well, and it took time, and it didn't happen day one, but I really liked the phase-in step approach. If you're on the fence, just buy the book and try moving forward with it and see if it's something like how you can incorporate it into your life, because I'm a big believer in habits anyways, and it's mostly a book about good habits. And then if you're looking at it and you're saying, well, okay, I feel like this has done a little bit for me, then I'd highly recommend the coaching program. Because if you feel like you're having trouble getting to the next step, there's probably little things, like for myself, I was told immediately, you're not eating enough. And that was not obvious at the time, but it became really obvious. And, now I know what I have to look out for. And I would never have known that without the coaching program. Or I may have even quit because I wouldn't have been able to gain weight and tried something else. So I would highly recommend the coaching program, because I think unless you have a really supportive group of like whole food, plant-based people around that already know what they're doing, it really helps to talk to someone who's been through it and knows what you need to do, or can give you some tips along the way.